Hi, my name's John Wise, and I've been hooked on American football since the early 1980s. When I first got into watching the NFL on Channel 4 in the UK, one of the things that really captured my attention was this game called the Super Bowl. And little did I know that the first Super Bowl I ever watched matched up actually a team that you'll hear about in a moment. Actually, I'm not going to tell you who that team is. You're going to have to read this book, The Mental Performance Index by Dr. John Murray, to find out who the winners of the MPI Bowl are. There have been a number of sort of key moments in my football career watching the NFL Super Bowl. I'm a big fan of America's Game, the NFL Network's TV program, and that's given me a really good insight into kind of what makes teams win and what allows players to perform at the best of their ability. I work as, or rather I do some work as Director of Coach Education for the British American Football Coaches Association, and we work with coaches in the UK to develop the game of American football. And in various day jobs I've worked within education and within sports psychology. If you take a look at my shelf, you'll see there's a plethora of books there looking at the importance of the mind, and I'm an avid believer that sports psychology plays a part. And we can take that from a whole variety of different sports, smart tennis, and there's some other books about golf as well. But the Mental Performance Index is probably a unique book in that it kind of identifies key moments in the 45 Super Bowls to date. Yeah, that's right, the 45, not just the first 44, where teams have been analysed and broken down as to how they've performed in key situations. And what Dr. John has done is actually identified 14 variables, key factors that affect how well a team can perform. And some of these factors, once he's done a statistical analysis, have actually outperformed other more accepted analysis, other more accepted statistics, like points scored, like points conceded even, and obviously kind of ones that as football coaches we'd probably be aware of are key factors that play a significant part in a team's success. It's a really interesting read. It's really, as an NFL historian and someone who really likes the history of the game, really finds that this is such an intriguing aspect of a team's performance. There are a number of sort of surprises in the book. There are a number of really interesting findings myself, and I found that reading the book gave me an insight into some of the key plays, some of the key moments, and really sort of feel like it's really whetted my appetite to kind of quiz Dr. John on how he actually did it. One thing the book does lack is it actually doesn't identify how it works it out, and I guess if Dr. John told those secrets, he probably would be giving away his trade secrets. But it is a very, very interesting read, and any coaches that are interested in developing the mental side of the game should give it a read, and we'll probably see that there are some lessons to be learned. One of the strong points that I really like in the book is that Dr. John has actually given a lesson to learn from each of the Super Bowls. Some of those messages are probably a bit clear and a bit obvious. I really love, and this isn't the MPI Bowl winner, the Super Bowl 23 lesson that was learned. The lesson to be learned from Super Bowl 23 is Joe Montana. Need I say more? And then if any of you saw the game, the 49ers beating the Cincinnati Bengals with that 92-yard drive at the end of the game, really know how cool Joe Cool was. And again, there are some obvious lessons for us as coaches that we probably are aware of. Super Bowl 27, Dallas Cowboys beating the Buffalo Bills. I think that was the one in Pasadena. Fumble 8 times and you don't win. That's an obvious. But it's key from this book that there are various aspects of the mental side, and there are obviously some key attributes that performers have had when they've performed in the clutch that can allow people to be really successful in the sport, in the biggest stage in America, certainly. So really, really worthwhile read for coaches, really, really worthwhile read for players as well. I actually still play in the UK, and I pride myself on my own mental skills and mental toughness, and I think that's as a result of developing confidence skills, imagery skills, concentration skills, attentional focus skills, and these are all things that Dr. John highlights at. So in summary, really, really interesting book. If you are interested in developing your team and developing the game, then go buy it on Amazon.co.uk. If you're very, very fortunate and you're in Florida at some point, I'm sure Dr. John might even give you a signed copy or sign a copy for you. And really, to sum up, for me, there are kind of several key moments in my football development. Watching the Super Bowl and watching the winners of the MPI Bowl. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Some of you might guess, but it's from the mid to early 80s. Is the best team. A few years later, I saw the Dream Season. The NFL put together, NFL Films put together a kind of a fantasy season based on the fact that there was a strike. And they worked out that the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers ended up defeating the previously undefeated 1972 Miami Dolphins, which was quite interesting to see that the perfect Dolphins weren't quite as perfect. And in fact, quite interestingly, the 73 Dolphins, the team that won the Super Bowl the year after, probably were considered quite widely to be a much better team than the 72 Dolphins, and Dr. John's statistics support this. America's game, as I mentioned about earlier, again, that was a key factor, and that's a key moment. You know, I really love the stories, and I really love some of the lessons that can be learned. And then finally, the Mental Performance Index. Again, I think this, really is something that you ought to get into. The Freud of football, as Dr. John's been nicknamed by the Washington Post, has really found a way to get the edge and to give teams the mental edge in the mental game. And this is an innovation that I firmly applaud. And if my approval's not enough, then maybe Nick Lowry, the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, Jim Crash Jensen, just an absolute special teams demon from the Miami Dolphins, again from the early 80s. Leslie Visser, or even Tom Flores, the first guy who won the Super Bowl as a coach, as a player, as an assistant coach, and then as a head coach with the Oakland Raiders. They might convince you to read this book and convince you to adjust your own coaching or playing mindset and how that can allow you to succeed. So go buy this book. It's a really, really worthwhile read.